Welcome to Toast and Jams, Elfreda Dali.
Hello.
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you doing? How does the day
well.
find you?
Very well, actually.
You've had a busy year.
I have.
What's been going on?
Lots of shows.
Yeah.
My first big commission.
Yes.
Trying new mediums.
Wow.
Yeah. Great mental health.
Yeah. Are you through the woods into the clearing of this year?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, cool. That must feel good.
Great.
So, Elfreda, you are a London-based multidisciplinary artist, right?
That I am, yeah.
Exploring figurative textile art rooted in diasporic cultures and their fusions.
Yep.
Cool. Today, you have chosen for us the song of Tracy Chapman, Fast Car.
Yep.
Why did you choose that tune? What meaning does that hold for you?
Yeah. I think some of my earliest memories making art, I was listening to like that whole album on a loop because that's what my art teacher at the time would play. And I remember thinking, oh, this is just such horrible music. But by the end of the term, I was playing Tracy Chapman at home.
Yeah.
And I still love her. So
Yeah, she's great. She's great. What was what age were you when you discovered that tune? Would you say?
wow. Probably about 12, 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was going on for you at that time?
Oh my gosh.
What was life like in the world of Elfreda?
I just moved to Lagos for the first time.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Well, how was the move?
smooth.
Yeah.
Pretty smooth, yeah.
You spent time over there before,
Yeah,
so
I'd gone
I
on
guess it wasn't too much
holiday
of a
and
shock.
stuff. I kind of knew what to expect. But it's always different when you live somewhere as opposed to,
course.
do you know what, visit. But it was really fun. It was really fun, yeah.
Do you think it inspired? Was there a part of that stage that inspired your creativity?
Absolutely. Still does now.
Still does now.
Absolutely, yeah.
Was there moments in your teens with that move? Is there anything you can kind of pinpoint
Ooh,
that stand out for you?
let's see.
Experiences or
Yeah.
people you met or things you saw?
People I met, things I saw, everything. Everything. Do you know what? I think I just fell in love with the vibrance of Nigeria. You know, just like there was always something going on and just like the colors, the culture, the weather, everything, the food. Oh my God, the food.
Yeah.
The food was everything for me at the time. So yeah, it was an interesting time. It was also an interesting time for my parents because like they had like a lot of just like events going on and stuff, and my dad was always throwing parties. And honestly, that was
What
pretty
kind of
much the
events
best
did
part.
they work on?
Oh, different things. They worked in hospitality at the time. So if it wasn't like a family event, it would be like an event that they were running for a client and stuff. But then
Wow.
we'd always have access. And so
So
it would just be
busy
like
socially
busy.
because it was either family or work, so
Yeah.
a full
Yeah.
calendar.
There was always something going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you kind of a quite social teenager?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
You like to
God,
get
yeah.
stuck in.
Honestly, to a fault.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the drink you have brought along today for us to
Mhm.
toast with is a Sancerre white, a sweet white. Is there a reason why you chose this drink? Let's cheers.
Cheers.
Nice one.
Nice.
It's good.
It just goes down easy, doesn't it?
Yeah. Is that your go-to?
Honestly, yeah.
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 Let's talk about background and inspiration a bit. Can you tell us a bit about your journey as an artist and what inspired you to pursue a career in art? Did
Yeah.
it start around your teens and in
Actually,
Lagos or?
to be fair, that's sort of when my interest in like drawing and like making things sort of just was like, oh, I have to do this for the rest of my life.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah, no question. But as far
It's a
as
strong decision to make.
oh yeah, especially
Yeah.
at that age.
Yeah.
I used to have a lot of like older people be like, "Oh, you're so lucky to know exactly what you want to do so soon."
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always think, "Oh yeah," and then you actually get into real life, and it's like it doesn't matter. It's just as hard sometimes.
It's all just as hard for sure.
Yeah, but What did you ask?
I asked what inspired you to pursue a career in art.
Ah, yes. Oh, I had no intentions of being an artist. I was going to be a fashion designer and I was going to
Mm,
be a career fashion designer. I wanted to be a couturier. That was like my final form in my head for a very long time.
yeah.
And then the pandemic hit and I lost like my freelance fashion work. At the time, I was even in conversation to sell my work at Selfridges. And so I was working on a clothing collection. And all of that sort of just disappeared. And I was just stuck at home with nothing but fabric. And that's when I started to make textile art.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah,
Right. That makes a lot of sense. The transition.
yeah.
Do you still dabble in any kind of like fashion design or
Oh
clothing
yeah, all
couture
the
stuff?
time.
Yeah, all the
Yeah,
time.
like every chance I get. Even when I make artwork, I'm constantly thinking, "Oh, what would this look like on the human body, or how could I like adapt
Yeah.
this into clothing?"
Do you think if a door opened up in that world that was kind of an easy like step through, you would do it?
I would run through the door.
Really? Right. Okay.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, then, so if it's that the pull is that strong, why
Mm.
don't you do it anyway?
So there are plans.
There are plans.
There are
Okay,
plans.
cool. Right.
Hopefully next year will give me that opportunity.
Mm.
I think a lot of my focus career-wise recently has been sort of honing my style,
Yeah.
just as far as like the art itself goes, but then also I guess finding my space within the art world.
Mm.
I do tapestry sort of textiles, and it's maybe not as straightforward or as carved out as painting or sculpture, maybe. So,
But
it's
that's
been
why
a bit
it's
of
good,
learning. Yeah, I mean,
if I'm
so
honest with
that's
you.
only now starting to feel like a good thing.
Yeah, man, for
For a
sure.
long time, I was like, oh my God.
I mean, but that's what, that's what stood out to me about your
Oh,
work
I
was the
appreciate that.
difference of it.
Fair enough.
And it really sits outside
Mm.
of a standard world of art in such a
Oh,
good way.
lovely.
Because the funny thing is that the things when we're younger, the things that make us different, we don't like, right? Especially
Yeah.
when we're awkward
Oh
teenagers.
my
You're
God,
like,
yeah.
oh no, I wish this was different. But as you get
Yeah.
older, that's the things that
Mm.
that are celebrated about you,
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
So
Yeah, I
same
agree.
goes for your work, I think.
I think so. That's
Yeah.
so true. Wow. Okay.
But I'm glad that that's starting to happen for you,
Yeah,
the
thanks.
recognition for it.
I'm glad as well.
So maybe a couple more you know, high level commissions and then you could
Right.
start funding
Yeah.
your clothing. Have you
Yeah.
got like ideas for would you do a brand or would it just be
I think I
designer
would.
based?
Yeah,
Like
I would.
you
I
do a
would.
brand?
Just something or just attached to my art studio specifically.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely open to sort of starting out in I guess sort of a collaboration form. I'm pretty open. But the ideas and the designs, they're ready to go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cool. That's exciting.
I know.
Look forward to seeing. Any
Same.
men's stuff you're gonna be doing?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I was making menswear before I switched to
Oh, cool.
artwork.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
what kind of capacity were you doing that in?
so I was working on pattern cutting for a new brand at the time,
Yeah.
and then
In the
designing my own
UK.
stuff. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Can you name them?
Probably not.
Oh, right. Okay, cool.
And I'm pretty sure she'd prefer that I didn't.
Fair enough. All right. It was all left okay, was it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. She's sort of just changed paths entirely now. So
Cool.
just yeah.
Fair enough. Were there any specific artists that helped kind of turn on that light for you?
Oh, do you mean in terms of art specifically?
Yes, but artists or movements, I guess, that
Interesting.
influenced your style.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved surrealism.
Mm.
It's just sort of, I mean, Dali as
Hence the
well.
Dali name, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Homage.
But in terms of artists, there's a Nigerian artist. His name is Yusuf Grillo, and his work is just like there's this sort of. It's interesting. I think the way that he paints, I've just always found so inspiring. And there's also like a texture to his work that is always you can see that in whatever the subjects are wearing.
Mm.
I'd always been quite drawn to that. So I guess that's an artist that has inspired me for a
Cool.
while now. Yeah.
What is it, and like, what is it about your personal experiences that have kind of shaped your artistic vision?
Interesting. A lot. A lot. So
And is there reoccurring personal experience themes in your work as well?
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah. I think the idea of just like travel has always been a really big thing for me because I've been traveling a lot my whole life. And so it's this, I guess it's this identity sort of pull between who I am when I'm in the UK and who I am when I'm in Nigeria. And they kind of come with their different set of like cultural obligations.
Hmm.
And obviously, like being a woman has so much to play in that sort of space. And so I think a lot of my practice has also been like reclaiming my identity as opposed to
Yeah.
allowing it to be dictated to me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And how do you think, have you know, has it been received quite well by people? What's the communication been like from admirers or people that enjoy your work? Especially women,
Oh,
I think, as well.
yeah. Oh, it's been
What's it been like?
amazing. It's been incredible.
Yeah,
It's art is really different from fashion,
of
right?
course.
And so it's like, yeah, like in in fashion you kind of will do the show and then a lot of the talking that you do is like press or interviews. But at the openings you're actually having a human connection with
Mm,
people and a lot of my work has been about like very personal stuff as well. And I guess connecting with people who have had like shared experiences or just like I suppose also getting to witness people coming to emotions that they wouldn't have if they didn't come in contact with my work.
mm.
That has been incredible.
Do you think you've been able to put your message across in an honest way and
Yeah,
show your own influence in your work,
yeah,
and then hopefully that resonates with
yeah,
people.
yeah,
There's honesty in it, right?
yeah,
That's
absolutely.
cool. How do you stay in quite? You're pretty busy. You've been pretty busy this year. Did you say you had
Shows,
11 shows?
yeah.
That's pretty busy. How do you stay
Yeah.
motivated through all that and to keep your
Hmm.
inspired and motivated and keep your energy levels up through all
Yeah.
that?
I have ADHD.
Right. A superpower.
Honestly, like I think my brain is always looking for something new,
Yeah.
right? It's that novelty chasing constantly, right? And so I think finding myself in like new places or wanting to do something I haven't necessarily done before is always like I always just will gravitate towards that naturally.
Mm.
But I suppose in terms of like actually staying motivated, I think I have pretty delusional ideas for my career.
Yeah.
And so
You have to though, right?
right,
You have to.
exactly. And so I'm kind of just like, all right, well, this is like setting the foundation and I'm locked in, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
yeah.
That makes complete sense. Yeah, you got to be delusional, right? I
Right.
mean, like, otherwise, if you don't, what's the term? If you don't shoot for the stars, you won't get the moon or something like that.
Fair
I
enough.
don't
I
know.
thought you were gonna say Delulu is the Salulu.
The which what?
Delulu is the Salulu.
I've never heard that. What does that mean?
Yeah. Delusion is
Delusion
the
is the
solution.
solution. Okay, right.
The girls.
Delulu is the Salulu.
Yep.
Okay, that's my next tattoo.
Love that. Oh my god, you have to send me that.
um, so moving on to kind of themes and messages with your art,
Mm.
what kind of themes or messages do you aim to convey through your art?
So in terms of using leather specifically as well, like leather is skin and
Yeah.
skin is identity.
Mm.
And so I think maybe a lot of it is about reclaiming yourself in a world that kind of constantly tells you maybe not to or to try and be something else, you know?
Yeah, a
There's
capitalist world for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, because
precisely.
without
Yeah.
that, they don't get to spend money, right? Yeah,
Precisely.
yeah.
So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of that in there as well. And then I guess in terms of my practice, I'm always thinking about like um what is the relationship between I mean, I think I'm always thinking how far can I push my medium,
Mhm.
right? And I think so maybe something in there as well is really just about like what can you make with the things that you have? And I guess that connects a lot to the sustainable aspect of my practice, where I'm always like
Yeah,
using old clothing or materials, or every piece of art is made from the waste from the one that I made before.
amazing.
So
Yeah,
it's like I guess it's also that idea of just like making new things in the world, but also in a way to sort of help the world as opposed to all the other stuff.
yeah, yeah, cool. So how does it work, your process of sustainability? Is it
Mm.
kind of regimented? Where do you get your sources of fabric from originally?
Yeah. So I source my materials from the UK and from Nigeria. And in every piece, I try to make sure that there's a little bit of both
Mm,
because of that constant conversation about, like, both sides.
yeah.
And then in between that, I use like old clothing, old accessories. Recently now, where I'm working in sort of a bigger artist community, I collect waste from other artists as well. And so that can be interesting.
Mm.
So yeah, it changes. It changes.
So how does that work? Do you visit studios and pick stuff up?
Pretty much I'm like,
Are you using
hey,
this?
you guys using this?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the good thing about working from Somerset House as well is we've got like bins, right? But they're like bins of just like material that could still be
But they're
used.
magical bin.
Yeah,
Artist bin is a magical
precisely.
bin,
Yeah,
right? I
honestly.
imagine.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's like wood bins, textile bins. And so
Yeah.
I'm always like
Lots
rummaging
of cool
through
stuff.
there and just like, yeah, grabbing new things.
Um, do you think your art has evolved over time with the themes and the messages that you put into it? Like when you began
Mm,
creating, I guess, in your
yeah.
teens, has there always been that strong message, or is it
Oh no.
kind of really found its strength over time?
Absolutely. I think the early days was more about just like making what I was imagining,
Mm,
right? And then it slowly, and then education comes in and you start to learn a lot about like research and responding to your research, but then also where do you want to sort of sit within the wider creative conversation? And I think more recently, some of the more challenging events that have happened in my life have also brought me to this new place of approaching my work, which I'm really enjoying.
yeah. What kind of
Yeah.
challenges have
Oh
been
gosh,
significant?
I always give a what is it? Is it a trigger warning? I think,
Sure.
but
Yeah.
yeah. So my mother passed last year,
Right.
and so that was just like I've never lived a day, well, before she passed, lived a day on this planet without like being the daughter of
Yeah.
someone
Of
who
course.
was just, and honestly, with my mother
Which you still
actively
are, of
there,
course.
absolutely, just said, thank you for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, yeah. And so it was also quite sudden, right? So it
Mm.
was just like, oh, you kind of just get thrust into this new identity
New
almost.
world.
Precisely. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And so that's changed me a lot,
Hmm.
obviously. And I mean, there's been a lot of other things, good and bad, to be honest. But yeah, it's all gotten me to become this new person with new ideas, I suppose.
Did your work help you through those
Absolutely.
times?
So much.
Yeah.
So much. Yeah.
How does it present itself in terms of therapeutic practice for you?
Yeah.
Do you find
Oh,
you have to kind of run to the studio and get some work done?
you know
And
what's interesting? Not so much. I think it was more just like, well, rather than doing nothing and sitting in all of the thoughts and emotions, I'd rather just do something.
hmm
And that was always something to do. And I also have this obsession with needing to be productive, right? So it was always just like, well, I'm doing this and I'm hoping it will turn into some piece of art that will then be more, or at least it's just sort of helping me to approach my medium in a new way.
Well, that's the
And
thing. Also, sometimes it doesn't have to be anything,
exactly,
especially if you're going
exactly.
through a period of grieving and
Yeah,
hard times.
yeah,
Yeah, you can just do.
yeah,
And if it's good, if it's something that you want to use or
absolutely.
great. But
Yeah.
also, it's all part of the process, right? Just the
It
doing.
is. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So before your mum's sudden passing,
Mm,
like, were you able to share your creative life with her and your work?
mm,
And what did she, how involved was she, and what did she think of
yeah,
the work you made?
yeah. Oh, yeah. It's interesting. My mom did fashion when she was really young.
Wow. Okay, that says a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah.
yeah, and her mum before her, in
Oh
fact.
wow.
Yeah, but none of them actually like did the whole career
Right.
thing. And so I suppose in that way I was kind of the first.
Mm.
And for a very long time, my mom was like my only supporter. My dad was just like, what are you trying to do with your life?
Right. Yeah.
But then my mom would like take me to the fabric stores and like come to the shows and
So really
honestly.
supportive.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And she passed around the time when I actually started to do gallery shows. And so when I had, and honestly, this was a huge turning point in my career.
Mm.
Relay Gallery. They're based in Lagos, London, and LA now, actually.
Wow.
I know, I know. They so I did a residency with them, and this was like very early days, like the first real art thing I had done when I was still questioning everything. And that was a competition, and I essentially made it to the end. And I just thought, wow, if
Mm.
there's people who have been doing art years before me and I could make it this far, maybe this is a real thing.
Yeah.
And so when I was having that show, she was in hospital.
Mm.
And so I obviously went to visit her afterwards and like showed her all of the photographs, the press and everything. And I'm really thankful that she got to see the start of it. And
Mm.
I kind of was able to get her feedback, you know. Um, so I was really careful, always like looking out for the things that I would miss.
Mm.
And so it was nice to, I suppose, have her opinion on what
Mm.
that was. And honestly, like it's obviously sad not having her around, but so much of what I've made since then has been connected to her
Mm.
so heavily.
And she must have been really proud in that moment as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been as of now, it's been the most rewarding thing in my career to be able to carry her into all of these spaces that I literally never imagined
That's really
myself
special.
in. Yeah.
That's really
So,
special.
she's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
Right?
So I think we're going to move on to audience
Okay.
and impact.
Nice.
How do you hope your audience will respond to your work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've kind of like detached from that a little bit.
Yeah, in a healthy way.
Yeah, yeah. I have ideas obviously for what inspires the work, and I can always sort of talk about that and say this is where this comes from.
Mm.
But as far as how it's received, for me that's actually part of the journey. Is like then getting to see what people feel and think when they see the work. And so it's always interesting to discover what that is as it's happening. But that being said, I mean, I do hope that my work can, I suppose, make its way into people's lives or maybe into like institutional spaces and,
Mm.
open a dialogue for a more sustainable way of approaching creative work.
Mm.
And then, of course, maybe, the idea of the evolution of identity, however that sort of sits
Yeah,
in
I could
different
like
spaces.
send a message or tell a story that can be told, keep being
Right,
told
exactly.
through the
Something
art.
classic. Yeah,
Yeah, that's cool.
that would be nice.
That'd be a great achievement.
Right?
And what's the difference between your art and maybe some clothing that you might produce
Mm,
and how that might be received by an audience? What's the
yeah.
difference there?
With my clothes, I always think, well, I hope that people put the clothes on when they want to be their best selves, or when they want to share an aspect of themselves that they maybe sort of need the clothing to tap into,
Yeah.
you know? But it is also this idea of just like, I guess, pushing the envelope with like silhouette, material, clothing, everything. And so I hope that in general it just can sort of stand as a space where, you know, evolutionary work,
Mm.
can
Yeah.
be sort of seen,
Yeah.
I guess.
And do you think feedback from audience
Mm.
would that ever affect your artwork? And would it more likely affect clothing?
It would definitely more likely affect clothing
Of course, right.
because at the end of the day, the clothing is product,
Yeah, yeah.
and you
And it
want to
has a
listen to
purpose,
what, you know.
physical purpose,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Then I guess outside of the function with art, definitely. But I think I'm very intentional about whose advice I take when it comes to
Mm.
artwork. You definitely want to try and take advice from people who you want to be like, right? But then I suppose also people who have an understanding of my practice rather
Mhm.
than just like, oh, this is this cool thing and I'm just gonna chuck in my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Thank you, but no thanks.
Yeah,
You know?
exactly right. Because you have to, I guess you have to limit
Yeah,
how much you take in
yeah.
because there's a lot of it is noise that you don't need, right?
Much of it is noise. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to pick and choose. I
That is
can't
a really
remember
nice tattoo. I think I'm
which.
just seeing that on your
Oh,
arm.
something my dad wrote.
No way.
Yeah, I
Oh,
asked him
wow.
what piece of music that he's written that he thinks summed him up the most as a musician, and this is like little 5 note part from the piano piece.
That is
It's his
profound.
handwriting as well, which is quite cool.
No
And my
way.
friend Biko did the
Oh,
tattoo. So it's a nice, I've known Biko since I was like 12. So it was a
oh
nice
wow.
little, nice
Family
thing.
affair.
Yeah, family affair. Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
So shouts out to Biko and shouts out to my pops as
Love
well.
that.
Um, you got any tattoos?
None.
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 Okay.
I have
So you're
what is
happy to
it?
work with cow skins,
Yeah,
not
right.
your own.
Not so much, no.
No.
I mean,
You
I
gonna
have an
get some?
idea for yeah, I do, but it's a red one, and you can't take those off
Mm,
apparently.
really? Why is
Yeah,
that?
I have no idea.
I didn't know
Someone with
that.
a red one told me it was like, oh
Ooh,
yeah, 'cause she wanted to get it removed, and apparently you can't. So I'm just like, okay, maybe I take my
just to
time.
do with the pigmentation or something in
Yeah,
the
I think
ink.
so. Yeah, I don't know,
No
but I
idea.
want like one continuous line running across my whole body,
Top to toe.
top to
How's that
toe.
gonna go?
Um, I know. Start on the toe, swirl around the knee, swirl around the other thigh,
Oh, cool.
swirl around the other thigh, come all the way up my back, my
And it
neck.
red.
Yeah,
Wow, that'd be
yeah,
cool.
my arms, fingers, and then maybe when I'm 40, I'll shave my head and then go around that as
Yeah, yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
Nice. When you approach experimentation
Mm,
in your work,
mm,
how do you maintain your unique style when you're kind of trying to experiment with new ideas, I guess?
To be honest, when I'm experimenting, I'm not thinking so much about staying true to the style that I already know.
Mm.
That sort of will come more in the finishing. So if I've sort of made something that is a bit new to what I'm used to, then I will try to make that on its own and then place it within the context of what I've already done. So that's usually how I approach that. But yeah, other than that, I don't think too much about like, oh, does this look like something someone else has made or
No,
like,
of course not.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I think I mean I'd say that is maybe more relevant in the fashion space,
Yeah.
right? As opposed to
Yeah, of
the
course,
art.
right?
Yeah,
You have
yeah.
to worry about stepping on people's toes, whereas
Exactly,
art is a
exactly.
free
Yeah,
reign
it is
in a
quite
way.
individual,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think unless you really are channeling another artist whilst you're making your work, I think it's kind of hard to like zone into your own thing and then come out with something that looks a lot like someone else's,
It's
you
almost
know?
impossible if
I
you're doing
think
it
so.
honestly, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So you've had a couple of big projects this year,
Hmm.
2024.
I know.
Can you tell us about one of the big commissions that you've
Yeah.
recently completed?
Yeah, absolutely.
What was that?
So they're opening up a new Adidas store and wanted some, I guess, original artwork for the space
Where's the store?
in Nigeria.
Wow, cool.
Yeah,
So
in
they hit the right person
Abuja.
up.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was interesting. They wanted
How did it come about first?
a friend of mine.
Right.
Yeah, shout out to
Good
Sulaiman.
good
Thank you.
friend.
Good friend. Good friend. Yeah, yeah. And he's working on like the interior and all of that and sort of just was like, I want you to do this. I think you'd be great. Yeah. And it's been a lot of like back and forth in terms of design, dimension, colors. But a lot of what they were looking for was actually quite true to my general sort of aesthetic in terms of like color, material, and all of that. So
Yeah,
it really wasn't a hard conversation. And
good.
yeah, I mean, it's a really big piece. It's the biggest I've ever made. And so that was quite
What's the
daunting.
scale?
2 meters by 1.
And all leather work and
All
stitching.
leather,
Wow.
all hand stitching, very also very
How
it
do you
has to be
approach
like
that kind of scale? Like,
honestly initially I just
what's the
sat.
prep like,
Yeah, oh, so much prep, so much
Yeah.
prep. It's like there's this thing in fashion pattern cutting, right? Where
Mm.
you pretty much make almost like a paper version of what you're trying to make in fabric.
Okay, yeah, that
Yeah,
makes sense. Yeah.
exactly. And so I guess that knowledge definitely helped a lot going into this.
Mm.
And the piece itself features the Adidas logo, which is so hard to draw and achieve, especially in textiles because fabric moves, you know.
How did you go about trying like getting that logo into onto
Yeah,
the leather and doing
yeah.
it? Did you project or
A lot
print
of
or
stencil work,
stencil work?
a lot of stencil work.
Okay, yeah,
But
yeah.
then also it's like it's important to also prep the fabric so it's not so much in its natural state where it can move so much.
Yeah, how do you
Yeah.
like, I've got no idea how
Yeah.
you go about
Fair enough.
manipulating leather like that.
Yeah,
Do you have
yeah.
to clamp it down and stuff? Or?
Sort of. Just think about like if you took like a flimsy piece of fabric,
Yep.
but then you almost like glued it onto like a hard piece of cardboard.
Mm,
So it's like it's just not going to move anymore,
rigid,
really, is
yeah,
it?
yeah.
So the term is interfacing. So I had
Cool
to,
term.
yeah, cool term.
What are you up to today?
Yeah,
I'm just
a
interfacing at the
lot of
studio.
interfacing. Yeah, just a whole
You don't know,
day
you
of
wouldn't know.
you wouldn't get it. No, it's a much it's a very boring process as opposed to what it sounds like. But you know, it gets the job done.
So what's the
So.
process though? I do want to
Oh
know.
yeah. Okay. So with interfacing, you get this like it's sort of like this hard piece of like almost like paper, but it just doesn't cut as easily or rip as easily as paper would.
Mm.
And you fuse that to the leather. That can be a bit hard to do because in general you want to use like it's a heat press that you want to
Is it
do.
something that you can, for want of I don't know the terms, but like
Mm.
unbond later,
Something
right?
so honestly, you shouldn't do that because then that could destroy the fabric.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but then so what you have to figure out is how do you pick the right material to bond so that it stays that way, but also stays that way forever.
Oh, okay, right,
A
right.
lot of trial and error.
Okay,
We
yeah.
got there in the end.
How big was this logo we're talking about?
Oh my gosh, probably about 1 meter by 1 meter.
Okay,
Yeah, the
big
logo
scale.
is like half the piece, and
Mm.
then
But you were happy with it?
I am.
It came out well?
It did.
When's the kind of like
Good
release date?
question. I have no
Okay.
idea.
All right, cool. Well,
It's sort of changed. It was meant to be next week,
yeah,
actually. But
okay.
I think they've pushed that. I need to find out.
Okay. Are you gonna
Yeah.
head over there?
I want to.
Yeah.
It might not
Nice
happen.
excuse.
Yeah, I know.
Especially this time of year as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's everything getting a
True.
bit colder.
Yeah.
What's the theme of this piece that you've done for
Mm.
Adidas?
So a lot of the concept was about exploring the city specifically where the store is opening.
Mm,
And I think their biggest concern was not just bringing a global brand into a place that already has sort of its own story and just like I guess placing it there. And so I did a lot of research into the culture in Abuja, the materials, the colors, the landscape.
mm.
And so it was nice to sort of do that
Yeah,
bit of
it's really
research.
sounds
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah, it was really fun. I
Yeah.
can't lie. Yeah. And it's interesting. I didn't actually know how how much the leather as a medium is a big deal there. There's like a lot of leather work that actually
Right.
goes on
Yeah.
locally there. And so that was like a really interesting
And that's
learning
mad how that you're
experience.
already
Yeah,
using it.
I know, I know. I honestly like when I was approached, he was just like, "You are perfect for this in so many ways."
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah,
like, and
right.
then I started learning all of the
Mm.
different ways, and so that was really really fun. And so yeah, I guess it's really about like
Was there anything from that experience and the stuff that you learned that
yeah.
you can now implement in your
Oh
work?
yeah,
Is
absolutely.
like anything
Yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of stuff?
So I really hate straight lines.
I mean,
Yeah.
because naturally you have to
Do you
because
know
you're
what I
working with
mean?
leather, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And I think this really challenged me to approach my work from a very sort of almost like a mathematical approach that
Mm.
I'd just avoid entirely
Yeah,
normally. It's
right.
just like, curves, any sort of, yeah.
Mhm.
But this really had to be quite like precise and very like,
Yeah, the sizing of things,
yeah,
they exist as they
absolutely.
are, and that's
Yeah.
how they have to
Yeah.
be. There's
Yeah. You
no
either get it right or it's wrong.
right.
Right. And usually within my work, it's like, well, even if it doesn't look like what I was going for, I can make it into something else.
Mm.
None of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I guess it was a really good challenge to be able to see that, like, oh, I can do this if I
You can do a straight line
applied,
if you want to do a straight line.
every brain cell. But yeah, that was good.
So we're gonna be seeing some kind of angular straight
Potentially,
pieces coming
potentially.
out soon.
I think, do you know what? I think it's helped a lot in terms of like, so some of the newer stuff that I've been exploring in my work is textile sculpture,
Mm,
you know?
how does that exist?
Well, textiles quite soft,
Yeah.
sculpture quite hard,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But, like, do you how where do the 2 meet?
Yeah. For me
Mm,
anyway, it's about what can you do with the fabric? How can you manipulate the fabric?
mm.
Because I'm not so much interested in sort of maybe wrapping wood or clay or something or stone with
Yeah,
fabric, right? I that's not necessarily the direction in which I feel like I'm heading. And so really it's more about like how can you manipulate the textile to do something
structurally,
exactly, but then to also stay that way
yeah.
forever,
Because
hopefully.
I guess if you've got a sculptured piece that's wood,
Mm,
why
mm.
cover it in something? It's just
Exactly.
kind of like a kind of
Exactly.
fake
Yeah, I agree.
activity,
Yeah.
you know?
It's just like,
So,
okay.
yeah, but if you can get I guess if in your case, if you can work leather to in some way to structurally hold itself, that'd be
Yeah.
pretty cool,
Yeah. Yeah.
especially to scale as well, if you could do it pretty big.
Exactly. Exactly. So that
So,
that should
is
be
that
fun.
are you working on that now?
I've been doing a lot of like sampling. I'm
Okay,
not in
yeah.
a place where
Like
I've
smaller
like,
things?
yeah, and like trying new things, but then also like building smaller things,
Yeah.
right? To sort of have a bigger thing
Yeah,
that
right.
doesn't do
Yeah,
the
yeah.
same thing, like just like a repetition
Yeah,
of like a
yeah.
swirl of fabric or something,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
no offense to anyone who maybe makes work like that. Um, but yeah, so it's been interesting to sort of apply that technique into like the more sculptural aspect of things.
Yeah, right.
And so like, yeah, hopefully next year I can come up with something that I'm happy to share with the world.
Yeah, cool. Look
Yeah.
forward to seeing that.
So do I.
Um, and I wanted to ask what it's been like receiving acknowledgement from and support from established powerhouses such as V&A and Somerset House. Um, can you tell us a bit about your Somerset House
Mm.
residency?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's called BBR, and that sort of started off as a business incubator, right? And
What does that mean?
yeah, so it's really, I suppose, about like helping small businesses have a future-proof business plan,
Yeah.
learning more about their markets, how can you scale, and I think there's a lot as well about like how do you seek out funding, marketing, sort of everything to
Mm,
support your business and get you from
that's really
small
cool.
business to established. Yeah,
Really supportive.
honestly, yeah. Shout out to
Yeah.
the Somerset guys,
Yeah.
truly. And so it started off there. And even in my interview, I remember talking about how like my practice is going through a transition at the time, which was like going from fashion to a more art-based
Mm,
practice. And honestly, I couldn't think of a better place to have done that because there was just like so much support, so much advice. And I mean, Somerset on its own, there's like multiple galleries in there, right? And so
mm,
I'm not only doing this in a space where they have the knowledge of sort of how to run an art practice, but I'm also meeting other artists, right? But then it's other artists who are like early stage, mid career, late career, and there's just like so much to learn.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
To meet people
yeah,
at different stages, it's really valuable.
yeah.
How did you find yourself there? How did you get into that position?
I've always liked Somerset House, and I'd always like
It's a
go
nice
for like,
place.
yeah,
Yeah.
right? It's like a
Yeah.
castle. I love it there.
Mhm.
And they'd always have these like summer film screenings. And I'd always sort of gone to those with my friends, like over the years, like from uni, we'd go there and just like watch the films and the actors would come and it was just an amazing experience. And so I'd
Yeah.
always sort of had my eyes on Somerset House specifically. But then a few people that I know who I'd been like following their work for a while had actually gone on and done that residency. And I thought, "Do you know what? This looks like it would be good for me."
Mm.
And honestly, just like even applying, I didn't realize just how good it would be. And
How well, so like if for someone that wants to apply for that
mm,
residency,
mm.
what does that look like? How do they go about that?
Oh, so there's an opening every year,
Yeah.
actually around this
One.
time. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
Oh
it's
my
not for one
God.
artist. It's
Oh,
like,
okay,
yeah,
right.
yeah,
Sorry, I
yeah.
thought
So
you meant
the
literally one.
applications, no, no,
Like, wow, that's
imagine.
tight.
Yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough. No,
yeah.
no, no. The applications open every year.
Okay.
And then you can sort of put your application through, and it's a bunch of questions about like your business, your purpose, your practice,
Mm.
and then you go to the interview stage, and I guess if they think that like you are the right fit for what they offer, then they'll sort of get you on.
When did you do the interview stage?
Yeah.
Was it online?
Oh yeah, but almost 2 years ago now.
Okay, right. I was
Yeah.
wondering whether it was lockdown times or
Yeah,
not.
it was just post.
Just
I was
after.
in New York when I did the interview,
Yeah.
so we could travel, but it was just like shortly after lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and what were the main things that you took away from that experience? Is it finished, by the way?
The residency is
Yeah.
finished now, so now I'm just like a member, like a full blown.
Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What were the? Oh gosh, I mean, it was really nice to meet other people who were kind of like looking to do similar things to me,
Mm.
and I guess it was also nice to learn that like I'm not just lost, I'm just starting.
Yeah.
And there's a difference,
Yeah, yeah, for
right?
sure.
And it was nice to also see like an actual career path, because I think that was my biggest reservation, sort of moving from fashion to art, was just like within fashion, I sort of had an idea of like, you want to start off on this role and then get promoted to such and such and such.
Mm.
But with art, I just thought, oh my God, they either like it or they hate it. And if they hate it, too bad, you know? And
That's the
so
benefit of meeting people that are further down the road, so to
precisely,
speak, right? Because if
precisely.
you're starting out and you can't see a path,
Yeah.
you meet someone that's 10 years down, 20 years
Yeah.
down,
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
they'll become a light on that path,
Exactly.
and it like goes
Exactly.
bing,
Yeah.
and suddenly you're like, okay, I can
Yeah.
see how I might get there.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah.
It's really, really
Yeah.
helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think a lot of my fears around like moving into the art space as well was just like, I really want to make sure that I have something to say.
Yeah.
Right. And I think meeting other people who had done that for years and was just like, I've never seen anything like what you make before.
Mm.
And even like the shows that I'd do, and I'd have like people who work at like gallerists and like dealers, and they'd come in and be like, even if I wasn't drawn to your work, I would get behind you because I've never seen something like this before. And I'd get that a lot. I still get that now.
Hmm.
So I just thought, oh, okay.
Doing something right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Bit of reassurance there.
Bit of
Did you
reassurance.
ever visit the tunnels underneath? You know the main square in Somerset House?
Yeah.
You've been through the tunnels?
Do you know what? No. I've
I've
seen,
DJ'd in
yeah,
there.
right. I think that's the
Yeah.
one I've seen. There
Right,
are
right.
so many more.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm hoping maybe one day I get the privilege to get to
Yeah.
see some more.
It seems I just love things like that
Yeah.
about places in
Yeah,
London
it's
that
called like
like,
the Dead House or something.
oh
Yeah,
it's like
it's
what happened down there?
yeah, it's like
Why is it
dungeons,
there?
literal. Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
it is
I know.
dungeons.
Yeah.
So I did a DJ'd for like a brand
Oh, nice.
activation launch thing like years ago, and just was unaware of these tunnels
Yeah.
underneath the main square of Somerset House.
Yep.
And yeah, they're there and they're extensive
Yeah,
as
I
well,
know.
and they're scary.
Yeah, they're so scary.
I mean, on this occasion, it's free booze, a sound system, and lighting and stuff.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
take that away,
I know. Yeah.
it's definitely quite sinister. Like, what happened down
Absolutely.
here?
Absolutely.
I think there's so many places
Yeah.
like that in London.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I know, right? It's
Yeah.
really interesting. I'm looking to sort of get the opportunity to explore like without the lights and the music and
Just take
50
a
other
torch down
people.
there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you should do a little tour of Somerset House.
I should. Honestly, it's about time.
Tell us a bit about 154 Art Fair. Where is that
Yeah.
based?
Somerset House.
Okay,
You know?
cool.
Yeah, it was the easiest logistics job ever. It
Yeah.
was just like across the courtyard.
So
It was
tell us a bit
great.
about that.
It was really good. It was really good.
What is it? What's its kind of, how does it exist?
Yeah, 154 is this global art fair. They do them in London, Marrakesh, New York.
Wow.
And yeah, it's like this huge African art fair. And it's essentially like, I suppose, like a global platform for artists from the African continent, right?
Mm,
And I think for me, that was an incredible experience. It was like, I guess, seeing other people who are inspired by similar things to me, but approach it in like vastly different ways.
mm.
That was amazing.
That's cool.
It was really something,
Yeah, yeah.
honestly.
Special.
Yeah. I was like so nervous coming up to the show. And it was a really like a busy time. Some of my friends were getting married at the time. And I had this silly idea to make my outfit. It's just
Was it
ridiculous,
this
honestly.
year?
Yeah.
You
Literally
like
like
to
a
really
month
pile it
ago.
on yourself.
Yeah, I know. I'm learning
How
to
did the
stop
outfit? Are
doing
you happy
that.
with the outfit in the
Oh
end?
yeah, I loved it.
Cool.
Yeah, I
All
had a
right.
really good time. Yeah. Oh yeah. Shout out to them. um, but yeah, so it was like this just really busy time. And I was really nervous about my work. And I mean, as far as like the work that I've mostly shown, people have only ever really seen my textile work, but I
Mm.
was showing paintings as well.
Oh, cool. I've not seen your
Yeah.
paintings.
Yeah, I
I'd love to
can
see
I
it.
can show you some
Yeah, show me.
photos.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was just like, yeah, I just had so many reservations about it. But I mean, the fair started and it went on for 3 days, and like every day was just a new experience. It's,
Mm.
something else that I really enjoy about being an artist is it's kind of like a party sometimes. Sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's just not as, I suppose, clinical, I guess. It's like,
No,
like office work.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so,
There's
yeah.
a more of an allowance for expression in
Exactly,
the walks
exactly.
of creative
Yeah,
life,
yeah,
generally.
absolutely.
Yeah, which is how it should
Yeah.
be.
No, honestly,
Imagine.
especially for
Yeah.
my brain. See, um, yeah, so it was really, really nice. And I think what was also interesting about it was we had a really good location as well, my agency, Piece Unique. And
Mm.
so that was really great. People literally like came in from Embankment Station and we were the first show. So we got like loads of
Wow,
footfall.
cool.
Yeah, it was
That's
an
really cool.
amazing location as well. And I mean, 154 does tend to attract people in the art industry from all over the world. And so it was also nice to, I guess, get feedback from people who aren't necessarily local to like London or Lagos, where I've like shown a lot of my
Mm, yeah.
work. And so there was that. And I had like a lot of like, I got approached by a number of galleries as well to like maybe do some future work. So
Brilliant.
yeah, hopefully next year is set up.
So some good
Um,
spin-off work from the back
yeah,
of it
yeah,
and great
absolutely.
exposure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It
that's
was really
cool.
good. It was really, really good.
And so when you see other people's work in this kind of sphere,
Mm,
how does that translate to collaboration? Do you collaborate often with other artists,
mm.
or if you haven't, is it something you'd like to do?
It is something I'd like to do. A friend of mine, Kingsley Ayogu, he's an
Yeah.
incredible
Shouts
artist.
to Kingsley.
I know, shout out to Kingsley. Oh, I don't know if I should even be saying this, but it's too late now. But it should be interesting. We've had a few conversations about collaborating,
Okay.
and he is generally a painter, but more recently started working with some textiles.
Okay.
Yeah, and
And
he's
you're
made
the
some.
opposite way around.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay.
So I've never actually thought about a collaboration like that until he sort of suggested it.
What was
And
his
so
suggestion? Did he have anything in particular? Or?
Kingsley's crazy. He was just like, we should work together.
Yep.
We should try this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then sent me a series of voice notes with all of his ideas.
Cool.
And honestly, great ideas.
Yeah.
So that could be something that we get to explore next year, hopefully. So that
Cool.
should be good. So yeah, I mean, whenever I think about collaborations, I'm thinking more in terms of like maybe like brands, companies, other artists, but not visual artists, right?
Mm.
And so that was an interesting conversation to have. And yeah, I think I would definitely like to collaborate with I really have this idea of like putting my art on like architecture, right? But like architecture that I find interesting.
Mm.
So that could be really
In
interesting.
what kind of iteration, like murals or?
So I guess it could look like a mural from
Like a
afar.
wrap.
Yeah, because whenever I think about murals, I'm thinking painting, right?
Sure.
But I'm also approaching this in terms of
Textiles.
fabric. So
Yeah.
that would also be
Because you
interesting,
could something you
right?
can touch, you can
Yeah,
put your hand on and, you
exactly,
know.
exactly. And I think that's a big thing for me. I always like the audience to have a tactile experience to get to
Mm,
touch the work. And I think when I think about architecture as well, you're generally not necessarily thinking about fabric that is like, I guess, durable enough to be on the outside of a building. But there are textiles that can
there
do
certainly
this.
are, yeah.
So that would be interesting to
Yeah,
do.
that would be
Yeah,
amazing.
that could be
And
fun.
in terms of scale,
Yeah, exactly.
like, you know,
Yeah,
sky's the limit.
yeah.
What's your plans this evening? You've got a party.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do.
Is that for your own work tonight?
Gosh, I wish.
Can't
No,
remember. No,
no.
no, no.
To be honest, I'm
No, you don't
glad.
wish.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you get to just go and have the free
Have
drinks
a good
and
time.
eat some canapes and
Exactly.
yeah, cheers to that. Mm. Okay, so looking ahead,
Yeah.
what are your aspirations for the future of your art? It's a big question.
Big,
And I can
loaded.
elaborate if you like. Are there any
Go
new
for it.
directions that you're interested in exploring?
Mm,
I think you
mm.
touched on sculpture a bit
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah. Thinking about a solo.
Mm.
To be honest, I wasn't thinking about it. I've sort of been,
I
I've been,
bet you've done 11 right this year,
yeah,
so it's
yeah.
probably about time.
About okay, fair enough. So I've been told.
Yeah.
I started working with this art agent recently, Lauren. She
Mm.
runs this platform called Lofty Spot, and they're doing amazing work. And so Lauren and I have been having a lot of
Yeah.
conversations about a potential solo next year.
Because you could do mixed. Would you do a mixed
Yeah.
media solo
Oh,
show?
yeah, absolutely.
It'd be amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking a lot about exploring the different aspects of my work that you can't necessarily do in a group show, which is all I've done so far.
Yeah, exactly
And
right.
there are other areas of just like installation and
Mm.
like other things that textiles can do that I've always sort of wanted to do. And so there's that.
What would be your dream gallery to
Oh,
exhibit your solo show in? First one. Anywhere in the world, by the way. It doesn't have to be
mm,
London. But London would be cool to know
yeah.
because that's
London
where we
would
are.
be, yeah, that's true.
But anywhere in the
You know
world, though,
what?
still.
In terms of London
Yeah.
specifically, I would like to actually do a solo.
Because this is manifesting right now. We can,
Yeah, it was Cromwell Place for a really long time, and now I've done that. So
yeah.
it's okay. It's a tie between the V&A
No, okay, cool.
and Gagosian.
Oh, yeah, right. Good choices. What
Yeah,
was you've got links to V&A, right?
yeah. We had
What were
like
the links
a
to V&A you've got?
fashion sustainability thing. This was what, like 2, 3 years ago,
Mm,
and so it was nice to do
which
that.
plays a big part in your process.
Absolutely.
What are the other artists like? What was their processes like that
Mm.
was sustainable about
Yeah.
them?
Do you know what? At the time, it was a lot about fashion design.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it was really about like other artists who are approaching a sustainable fashion business in different ways.
Mm,
And I think the interesting thing there is there's a lot of ways to approach sustainability from like each stage in the production process, whether that's like there are sustainable ways to approach your business, how you're employing people, how you're paying people, where you're sourcing your materials from, how you're getting your materials made,
mm,
dyeing, everything, even down to like what companies you work with in terms of distribution.
mm.
And so it was interesting to meet other people who were approaching the same idea from different areas of their sort of businesses and
Yeah, well, that's
practices.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, great. What would you say
Mm.
is the part of being an artist that feeds back into your personal life the most?
I think I really enjoy the fact that I can use my practice as a foundation to sort of carve out my lifestyle, the
Mm,
sort of life that I want to have. You know, I've always been obsessed with like going to new places,
mm,
new cultures, experiencing new things. And the fact that my work is so heavily connected to this diasporic life that I've lived so far,
yeah,
what I appreciate is that like moving forward in my career, hopefully it allows me to explore new and wider dimensions of that. Um, and so I really love the fact that hopefully my progression as an artist will allow me to have the kind of life where I can sort of travel, see new things, and then that will feed into my work, and hopefully then that will feed me, you
Yeah.
know,
Feed me full stop.
you know,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and afford me the kind of life that I'd like to have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
I
I'm
hope.
I'm
I'm
sure.
sure. You
Yeah.
have to, do you know what
Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So that's how it feeds back into your life.
Mm.
But how do you see the role of art in society today?
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
loaded question.
Well, I think just to kind of like add to it,
Yeah.
the reason we're doing this is because,
Mm.
this was born under a political party that was squeezing the creative world dry, right, and
Mm.
killing it. And we're still there, and it's not really getting any better. So we're trying to shine a bit of a light on creativity as much as in the
Yeah.
best way that we can, right?
Yeah.
But how do you think?
Yeah.
What role do you think art plays in society and the importance of it?
I think one of the roles of art in the world is to sort of hold a mirror up,
Mm,
right? And
right.
reflect on the times. And not just for the people who will sort of see that now, but I guess also in sort of like an archive type of thing, like
Mm-hmm.
for the generations to come.
Mm,
And I do think that we are in a place in the world now where we kind of need people who are, I don't want to say bold enough because I think the boldness is there, but it's also sort of almost like honest enough to be able to say that as it is. I think when you think about like capitalism, branding, and all of these things, social media, it gets very hard to sort of stay true to whatever your message is. And the
mm,
role of the artist is to do that,
100%.
you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And every country, every different, every space in the world needs a group of people who will stand in that, truth. And I think that that's the biggest role that art has to play right now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, great answer.
Thanks.
um, and so kind of just to kind of round everything up
Mm.
and a last word,
Mm.
what advice would you give to a younger you
Mm.
starting out
Mm.
who's 13, may have just moved to Lagos, maybe just moved to London?
Yeah,
Who
yeah,
knows?
yeah.
What advice would you give to them? That was a
Relax.
good deep breath.
Yeah. I think that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah,
Breathing
breathe.
exercises.
That's it.
No, truly though.
Yeah.
Obviously have your idea of what you want to do and where you want to go.
Mm,
And educate yourself constantly. School is not the only place to do that,
yep.
But also learn to let go and allow life to do what it's going to do and embrace that. It's not always going to be fun, right? But if you allow yourself to believe that life is working for you, it probably will,
Mm, yeah.
right? You
Yeah.
don't know all that you are yet. There is so much,
That's a great one.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
There
Yeah.
is so much to discover.
You don't know all that you are yet. I
Yeah.
love that.
Allow yourself to find that out.
Yeah.
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 Make money.
Amen.
Exactly.
Elfreda, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really good to talk to you.
Thank you for having
And
me.
good to see you.
Same
And good luck
here.
with everything.
I'm going to need it.
Cheers. Something tells me you won't.
Oh, hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're really happy that you're enjoying Toast and Jams. And what we need from you now is a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel and it guarantees that we can keep this amazing standard of guests up. Also, if you want to learn anything more about the guests or their work, there'll be links in the description where you can also find their song choice. Thank you and keep tuning in. This has been a joint production between Toast and Jams and Allen Brothers Films.